This patch is a massive patch. I was monitoring this on the side with the just like worlds coming around the corner. With all the work that I've been doing, just testing different things, I found a lot of changes to be quite funny. But what I have noticed in this patch is ultimately I don't see anything that's that big of a change. Okay. That's going to be what I tell you right now, right off the outset, like right off the initial, I'm going to tell you that none of these changes are particularly massive. And the reason why I'm saying this is because what Riot's aim to do with this patch is basically make it so that anything that they change, they don't have to touch before Worlds. So they were very, very delicate on this iteration of patches. They wanted to make sure that nothing broke the game, which I can kind of understand from their perspective, because let's face it, like if you were Riot, wouldn't you want to do the same thing, right? It kind of makes sense. So having said that, we're going to go through. I don't expect anything to be too crazy in here. But yeah, that's just those are my caveats going in. So the first thing is Predator is getting a buff. Again, you know, Predator is pretty underutilized, realistically. It is a significant buff, but I don't think it's a buff that changes much in the higher elos, and I don't think it's a buff that changes much in competitive. This would significantly change some of the abusers. There's not many of them. I can think of a couple. I can think of Fiddlesticks, and maybe Gragas sometimes likes this, but there's not many people that get much value out of Predator. So this change might encourage a couple, or maybe some like weird edge cases like Predator Garen, or just roamers and stuff like that I might be missing out on in my list. But it is significant. But I don't think it's a game changer quite yet. Maybe Rumble could use this. Would be curious to see if there's any like weird cheese strategies that show up because of this change. But yeah, again, I just don't. Someone says Predator hack room in my chat. I don't really see it being a big to do personally. But be on the lookout. If you see any like Predator builds show up, maybe there was something that I missed in my initial reaction, where there's like a sneaky strategy or play style that this actually pushes it over into like crazy viability. That I guess could happen sometimes. But again, I think it's like Fiddle and Gragas are the ones that are going to be rejoicing the most. Personally. So Umbral Glaive, that is the dewarding item. So you buy it, it reveals the wards, and you clear them very quickly. I mean, Pyke's gonna like this. Any champion that builds this item in their build path is gonna appreciate this little buff. It's convenient. The item is it feels really good when you get to utilize it. But it's just an item that it's one of those macro items, right? Like no one feels good about clearing vision and clearing wards. I think it's a pretty powerful item as is. So this buff is, anybody that gets value out of this is going to be very happy incorporating this into their build. And if you understand vision, this can be a wonderful tool to get you nice flanks and nice angles around people to make plays. You might even see some of the other assassins using this a little bit more readily. It's an item that has just flown under the radar. Like no one wants to use the macro deward item. So yeah, basically two things in these system buffs where it's like no one really uses this. No one really uses Predator. No one really uses Umbral. But look out for any cases of champions that would have been incorporating this from time to time, because this is significant. These are just some significant buffs, some encouragement to actually utilize these things. So just thoughts. Now, let's get into the nerfs. What you're about to see down this list, these are all nerfs for, you guessed it, Worlds 2021. Every single champion, if you go down this list, are all champions that show up a lot in Worlds. So if you like these champions, congratulations. You aren't a Worlds player, and you're about to get punished. So I guess not. Congratulations. Starting with Aphelios, base AD is down. Ashe WCD is up. Camille passive CD is up. Jace, his AD is down. Jace is hard as hell to play. Boy, I was losing with Jason Diamond, and I was like training on him. So that is a mean nerf to Jace. It's gonna make pulling him out in Worlds a lot less appetizing. I'm not gonna lie. That 2 AD is gonna add up so quick with how tight these lanes can get sometimes with Jace. Kalista. It's a nerf to the synergy of the ult, which is again is a competitive facing nerf. Lee Sin base AD is down. Lee Sin has obviously flexed into 3 roles more recently, and has only recently gotten kicked out of solo lanes. Very strong jungler nonetheless. Renekton, another pro player staple, played in mid and top. Empowered stun duration is down. The animation time is also reduced. Thresh. Thresh is getting a nerf as well. Basically making him less appealing of a pick for pro supports. Trundle Support, this is another one that shows up sometimes, specifically targeted so that it doesn't pop up as often in Worlds. And then Varus, basically the AD carry to end all AD carries. The flex pick can be played pretty much in every lane and do well with a coordinated team. So all of this might as well be fuck your champion for Worlds patch or nerfs here on this section of the patch. I think most of these nerfs are respectable. Even stuff like Jace that I don't personally like, I acknowledge that like I'm just trash on this champion. But literally like every champion in here, when they're arranged in 5s, they're all very good. They're very, very good when arranged in proper games. Even like just high elo, like we're talking like challenger, like these champions are all very, very good and should not be dismissed. So yeah, it all makes sense. It's just if you like them, it's because of Worlds. Now we get into the more fun stuff. These are the buffs, the slight buffs. They're just not this section here. These are the buffs that Riot's like, hey, we're gonna throw a bunch of newbies a bone. There's really nothing in here that's gonna be game breaking for higher elo play. This is all just like fun changes, right? So this is the part that you guys should get excited about, because this is the stuff that you could take into your games and you could actually like maybe try out in your lower elo rank games and see the change right away. So the Mundo Q max damage to monsters is up. The healing is up on the ult. And yeah, Mundo hasn't been doing that great in top lane, has been doing that great in jungle. They're just pushing up his percentages a little bit. Nothing in here is just like game breaking. The Q change for monsters is just going to help his jungle a little bit. The R change is going to help his ult a little bit late game, but like he's still not great. He'll be a little less shitty now, but he's still shitty in my opinion. Lower elos will like these changes though, because it'll make lower elos feel like Mundo's doing stuff again, even though it's really not that different. Draven, I read this one already. It's a pretty funny change, actually. R hits on enemy champions that would leave their current HP below Draven's current League of Draven stat count will execute them. So if you've been farming stacks to like 200 or something, and you fling your ult out and you bring somebody below 200 HP with your ult, they just fucking die. Like they just pop, which is hilarious. And I think it's a cool change. It makes the Dravens that were really patient get rewarded in solo queue, but it really only applies to solo queue. It makes me want to play Draven just to try to execute somebody when this goes live and just farm queue and not die, and then just fling out your ults. It's a really neat. That's a neat one. It's gonna basically turn Draven into like a stacking time bomb as the game goes on if he hasn't died in a while. So reward Dravens that are like controlled. Draven one tricks that like really crush lanes are gonna be loving that. It's gonna be wild. Because if he hasn't gotten a kill for a while, well, you know, just fling your ult out and you're gonna get one, right? Gangplank, base HP. So this one, Gangplank, you know, I'm always very opinionated about this champion, where he gets this buff that makes him a late game monster, but he loses his grasp access. This buff here is nice. I think it will make him tougher to dive. I think it will make his scaling playstyle a little bit more appetizing, but he's still GP. So it's definitely, it's a buff for sure. Do I like parade this? Do I like parade this around the house and get super amped about it? Nah. HP is valuable for lanes, but very exploitable. If someone just dives on a GP and breaks his barrels, he's still gangplank, he's still team reliant. Now he's relying on scaling, not really winning lanes as much. I think it's a reasonable buff, but again, he's gonna stay towards the bottom of the win rate list. Jinx Q mana cost is down. It's just a good overall buff to Jinx. I'm not really sure how much it was needed, but it's gonna make Jinx's laning, pushing more reliable. Kai'Sa, ECD, slightly lower late game. Not a big change. If you get to late game, you get more value out of it, but there's nothing huge there. Karma, the armor is up, the shield is up a bit. Karma's still pretty solid pick overall, but she doesn't really do any one thing better than any other mage in the support in the bot lane and the support lane. I see her being more of an aggressive snowball pick, synced up with somebody like some sort of hyper carry that she can operate off of. That's about it, and she has to rotate or pace the game out quickly. Kog'Maw's AP ratio on the E is higher. Significant buff to Kog'Maw, probably deserved just for scaling. He's not really that effective in solo queue, relies on his teammates. Duos might like the Kog'Maw buff for sure. Misfortune, the waves, R waves. She gets a little bit more R waves. That means more damage for Misfortune's ult. I'd say that's pretty significant AoE team fight buff. Misfortune is still Misfortune though, and you're gonna wish that you had a mobile AD carry, but if you do land a big ult, you'll get a nice little reward buff for that. Morgana E cooldown is lower, which, yeah, I guess Morgana can use a buff, but this is a very, very minor buff, and certainly not one that's like, again, that you're gonna just parade it around your house and print it out and put it on your fridge. There's nothing here that makes Morgana like any better than any other champion. As you guys are seeing, there's a trend here with this patch being very lukewarm. Singed, R causes all damage to apply grievous wounds, so now Singed doesn't have to buy grievous wounds anymore. That is a significant buff. That's one of the few that are in this patch, because Singed, he really has been struggling with itemization in this patch. So he'll be pretty pumped when he gets to press R and just get 800 gold for that. Or I don't know what the gold value of grievous wounds is, but I think it's like somewhere between 400 to 800 or something. So he's going to get some value out of that change for sure. So Singed mains are going to be very, very happy when people are chasing him around. And they just have to buy that anymore. Soraka clears grievous wounds from a target. The Soraka R, that's valuable. How valuable? I'm not really sure. I guess if you think about healing champions, she's going to play like kind of Yuumi 2.0 later in the game. So yeah, I think it's a pretty useful R buff. It's going to save a lot of champions later in the game. Talia, Q casts on worked ground refunds 50% of CD, work ground radius, duration. That change, I'm actually not too familiar with what that actually changes with her. I suspect this is more for jungle, Talia. Less mid. I haven't seen mid in a while, so I guess this is just a maybe for some solo lanes this is valuable. But I don't know enough about that champion to really comment and to give any definite opinion on. Twitch, RAD. Okay, so yeah, AD Twitch is kind of whack right now. AP Twitch variant's better, so I totally expect some sort of Twitch AD buff. So that totally scans with me. Urgot QCD. QCD. Q. Okay. QCD. Mana cost is down. That's useful, I guess, but he's still Urgot. He's still easy to outplay. He's still either ahead or he's behind and useless, right? So yeah, not a big change there. W shielding per extra champion hit is up to 50. Oh, 50% to shielding. I mean, I mean, you only like 1v9s. I don't even know why the hell that guy's getting a buff at all. Strange buff. Feels like they're just trying to sell skin or something with that. I also don't think Yone ever shows up in comp, so I can kind of see, yeah. Yone's fine, so I don't know why they would even touch him. People just suck at this champion. I don't know why they would ever need a buff on him. He's literally, Yone's literally got people playing him in Challenger, just playing top lane on EUS. So I have no idea how the hell this champion ever gets a buff. Super strong champion if played right. Yeah, they're trying to sell something on that. Yuumi. Why buff Yuumi? That's another one. Not really sure I agree. Passive CD is lower. Makes her early game a little bit more stable, but she was already like auto winning. If there's just like one carry that she could sit on. Don't like that buff either. Zed. Passive now deals 100 bonus damage against monsters. I mean, I guess that's cool. But this is another trying to force junglers to trying to force champions in the jungle, just like Darius. The shit won't work. And then Zoe ECD, buffing Zoe. This one could actually result in a lot of pro play. Actually, this is a weird one. Zoe was already regarded as one of the best picks in mid by a lot of high elo players. So expect Zoe. I guess Riot just wants Zoe to be at Worlds a lot because she's already strong in the highest tiers of play. The laning is very, I mean, this is like one of the hardest. This is like the only thing that like beats me. And whenever I play high elo and I play Trundle mid, is like there's like no lanes that ever give me a hard time except like this one. This is like the hardest lane in the game already. So buffing it, I don't know about that. Really, she does a really good job of keeping all those bruiser picks like in line. Like if you spam bruisers like Trundle or like Aurelia, or like, well, I don't know, Aurelia matchup might be okay actually. But if you play like Renekton or Trundle and shit like that, Zoe will whoop your ass and make you want to hang yourself. So yeah, I'm sure this is like a targeted, like we want this champion on stage. And then champion adjustments, passive damage reduction increase, AP against champion chase. This is on Fizz. What the hell? W on hit damage. I don't really understand this one. Gigalodon. This just looks like I'm reading Braille over here. I have no idea. Okay, Talon's getting a change so that he does some more damage to monsters. That's a jungle change. Rumble WCD is now passive attack speed is 50 based on level. So Rumble's not really changed that much. Little changes to how Rumble operates. Lilia, I'm gonna go back to the top again. So just some tweaks on Lilia's jungle to make it more stable, because she gets kind of low in her clear, I guess, initially. Yeah, that's definitely for jungle, and just making her clear a little bit more easy to understand, I suppose. Base attack speed, Q now deals 25 bonus damage to monsters. So Kiana jungle. So this and Zed. So these are all Zed, Kiana, and Talon are all getting like pushed into jungle, like as like fun low elo picks, but like just like the Darius thing, it won't mean shit because these low elo players can't play them in mid anyway. So what the fuck is it going to do in jungle where they actually have to run around and farm camps on time? That's never going to work. Cheese and be useless is how that's going to play. And then this Fizz thing, it looks like just a massive, it looks like a massive shuffling of Fizz's kit here, but I'm not sure what the intent is. Is anybody tracking? They're moving power from his ult towards his abilities. Yeah, I'm sure what that all changes, honestly. I would have to get back to you guys on that one because I have no fucking idea. I don't even know why they're doing that. I don't even know what the aim is here. Fizz is too, his abilities are so easy to hit anyways. I feel like him just being ult reliant is just part of his identity. So like when they do it a different way and they're not changing any of his abilities, so I don't really see how, at least it doesn't say they're changing his abilities, so I don't really see how much changes there. Yeah. And there's your patch notes. I mean, like I said, pretty lukewarm patch. A couple of weird like moments with like the Zoe buff and like the Yone Yuumi buffs, but most of the nerfs and buffs and everything here makes sense. They're very safe. The way Riot frames it is, if that gives you any indication, Riot is perfectly fine with shaking up the meta completely, as long as it doesn't affect worlds. So don't expect a big change on the patch, and don't expect any of these jungle picks to like rock the world or anything. Don't expect Mundo to 1v9. Don't expect GP to not suck anymore. Singe players, you might get some value now. That's really about it. There's nothing in here otherwise that's like mind-bogglingly crazy or weird. And I will definitely stop playing Jace after that nerf. So yeah, there you go. Let's play some duos with subs, guys.